Earnest money. It's a term buyers hear all the time when they're buying a house, but what does it really mean? Hey guys, Erica Galinas here. Welcome to my weekly videos with seller and buyer tips. This week I'm talking to the buyers and we are talking about earnest money. I'll have to say that one of the most common questions I have when I first meet a buyer is about earnest money. You know, what it is, how it works, what we're going to do about it. So today we're going to talk about the basics on earnest money. What it is, what it's for, are you in danger of losing it? Are there times you can keep it? And also a way that you can use it to get a more competitive offer in a house you want to buy. So let's first talk about number one. So what is earnest money? Basically, it's an amount of money. When you write a contract on a property, there's a blank in there, you fill in an amount, and when that contract is accepted, you turn over this earnest money to the seller. It's usually held by the seller's agent or a title company, so it's safe and secure, nobody's spending it or anything like that. Its purpose is to act as basically a good faith investment that you are serious about buying the property. I'll make up some numbers. You have a house you want to buy for $200,000. The earnest money you put forward is, in this case, say $3,000. So you will get usually a money order. Sometimes they take checks, but usually a money order or a cashier's check from your bank in the amount of $3,000. Your agent will turn it over to the seller's agent. They will deposit it in their brokerage account, either with the brokerage or the title company. Both places are very safe. What it does is tell the seller, yeah, I'm 100% serious about buying this house. The purpose of it is really to make sure that you have some skin in the game. There are absolutely buyers out there that would wander around and put offers in willy-nilly on all kinds of houses and not really be serious about it, put in like 6 offers at a time and see which one hits, and they're all lowballs and it's this big mess. So earnest money acts as a deterrent from people doing that. Sellers have an interest in having a serious, qualified buyer for the property, and one of the ways you can demonstrate that is by putting down earnest money. There isn't any law or rule about how much the earnest money can be. Some agents do 10% of the purchase price. Some people vary it between, 10% of the purchase price if it's under $500,000. If it's over, then it's maybe 15%. Or if it's $1 million, they might be looking for, $25,000 or something like that. Really, it's an amount that makes the seller comfortable knowing that you are a worthwhile buyer, because if they accept your offer, they're going to take their house off the market. They're not going to look for any other buyers. They're going to stop being competitive for their sale, and that potentially can cost them money. So then that earnest money sits in the brokerage account or the title account until closing. Once you get to closing, which is where, they do all the math and you sign all the paperwork and you get the keys, everything like that, that amount of earnest money is credited towards the purchase price of the house. So when you go to closing, you'll get a closing statement that has all the math, and there's tax credits and there's HOA fees. There's all kinds of different things. Your agent obviously can go through that with you when you actually get that piece of paper. But there will be a line item in there for $3,000 as a credit to you. In most cases, to simplify it, if your down payment is going to be $10,000 on this house, you've already paid $3,000 of that, so you will only need to bring $7,000 to closing. The math part gets a lot more complicated, not necessarily something you need to worry about, but I want to make sure you know that that earnest money amount comes off what you owe for the house at closing. None of it is deducted, none of it goes to the agents, nothing happens to it. It's kept in a secure trust account until it is applied towards that purchase price. The next biggest question I get about earnest money from buyers is, I don't want to lose my earnest money. What do I do if I need to back out? I can't speak to this in too much detail on like a case-by-case basis because state laws differ, across all 50 states. Contracts are all very different. So I want to just do the basics for this. You're under contract for a house. You love the house. You think it's great. You get the home inspection, maybe you get the title work, maybe, unfortunately you lose your job, something like that. Something goes wrong, and all of a sudden the house is not the dream house you thought it was, and you want to back out. So what happens to that earnest money? It depends on what contingencies you have in your purchase contract as to whether or not you will get your earnest money back if you back out. When you sit down with your agent to go through that purchase agreement, make sure you have at least a general understanding of what the contingencies are and what that means for your earnest money. Most of the time it comes up in terms of home inspections, and contracts usually have, pretty well-defined definition of, what the home inspection is, what it can be. If it doesn't pass home inspection, what will happen to the earnest money. So if you're getting cold feet, if you get a weird home inspection, if there's some, title work, if you lose your job, you can't get the mortgage, talk to your agent about whether or not that is a contingency that allows you to get your earnest money back. Again, every state is different. Different MLS boards have different regulations. In general, contingencies in the contract cover all the big ones. If the house is falling down, if you can't get the mortgage, if there's a title problem, maybe a deed that's been recorded incorrectly, those kinds of big deals, usually you can get your earnest money back. As I said in the last section, talk to your agent first, because there will be contingencies in the contract that allow you to back out and hold on to that earnest money. However, it doesn't cover everything. In general, and every state is different, but in general, wanting to back out because, you get cold feet, because, I saw this other house, I want to buy more, or maybe something like, I can't buy this house, the carpet needs to be stretched in one of the bedrooms. Those are not necessarily things that are covered in most contingencies in contracts. Now you have a problem. What are you going to do? You want to get this money back. You don't want to buy this house anymore for whatever non-contingent reason that you've decided you don't want it. Well, the purpose of earnest money, like I said, is to protect the seller, to make sure that you are a serious buyer and are not going to back out because, you get cold feet or you don't like, the color in the kitchen. Depending on your contract, the seller has a legitimate right to want to keep that earnest money. The theory about why they would keep that earnest money is that they have kept the house off the market for X amount of time. Let's say 3 weeks until you find out that, there's this other house you want to buy or something like that. So 3 weeks in, all of a sudden you've changed your mind and you're like, hey, I'm backing out and I want my money back. The seller is going to say, no, we were off the market for 3 weeks. In theory, during that 3 weeks, there were 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 other qualified buyers that would have wanted to buy this house. So we've lost 3 weeks of market time. You've breached the contract. We're going to keep that money to make up for the damages that we potentially lost from these other buyers. At this point, talk to your agent, but remember, your agent is not an attorney. They may have experience with other times where deals have fallen through. Certainly I have as well. It can often be settled with something as simple as agreeing to split it in half. What this accomplishes is that the buyer gets $1,500 back, the seller pockets $1,500, and then everybody just goes on their way. Obviously, the seller has leverage because he's got $3,000 of the buyer's money, but the buyer does have some leverage. Again, this may vary state to state and things work out differently, but there is a pending contract to purchase that property. There has not been a mutual release signed for the property because they haven't figured out what to do about this earnest money. Therefore, the seller can go back on the market while you guys fight about the earnest money, but they can't close with a new buyer until that earnest money is sorted out and the mutual release is signed and your purchase agreement is null and void. That's why often real estate agents propose splitting it 50-50 or 70-30 or however you guys decide to do it. After that, it becomes an issue for the attorneys. In general, lawyers are nice people. Nobody really wants to screw around with a lawyer. But when you get to that level of dispute with the buyer and seller, you're looking at the contract, not just reading the contract, but trying to interpret unclear parts of what the contract means and the definitions of words like major defect. As a buyer, if you get in a situation where you have a dispute over the earnest money, one of the reasons why agents propose that is because usually it is the easiest solution. Things can get messy, emotions get, riled up when there's something wrong. So when you have a dispute between the buyer and seller, everybody's on hold. You can't buy a new house because you already have a purchase contract on this other house. The seller can't sell their house because they already have a buyer for their house that's just kind of out there. A lot of times just splitting the difference and moving on is the best thing to do. So that's the basics of earnest money. Obviously, different states, different rules. Talk to your agent, ask the questions that you need to, which is advice I always give. What kind of questions do you have about earnest money? Or maybe what kind of experiences have you had with either asking for a refund of earnest money or some other issue that goes along with it? Please comment down below. If you'd like to ask directly, you can always call or text me anytime at 219-765-2062. You can also send me an email if it's easier at hsbyerica@gmail.com. If you're looking for more buyer information, check out my website at homesalesbyerica.com. There's a full buyer's guide on there that talks about earnest money and home inspections and financing and all kinds of things there. You can certainly search for homes, get links to my other videos with buyer information, and there is a chat button there. So if you want to go there to ask your question, I'd be happy to help. If this is your first time here, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I do these buyer and seller tips once a week along with market updates on Tuesdays. So if you want to ring that bell, you'll be notified when I post new ones. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you Tuesday.